Hi, I'm Chandra. I am a certified coach and the founder of Glow Living and the author of Root to Rise. I have a question for you today. Do you think that when you experience depression, that you encourage those feelings in any way, or do you think that there's something that just happened to you? I want to invite you to think about depressive patterns in your life, and that's what I want to talk about today. During my coach training, I thought it was pretty illuminating to look at ways that I might be encouraging depressive feelings inside of myself. And I've structured a lot of content around living, a joyful life, learning to love life. And I've really had to take a look at where I may be responsible for bringing about and encouraging, more negative thoughts and depressive feelings. So, one thing I want to share with you is kind of what I have done in the past to bring about depressive feelings inside of myself without even realizing it, honestly. So the first thing that I do when I feel overwhelmed or when I feel sad, I'm curious if is the same for you. I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but I know that there are some things that we can do to encourage those feelings. And one for me is the minute my hand goes to my forehead and I start to maybe close my eyes, go internal, start to slow my breathing down, and I start focusing on things that I'm upset about, that immediately brings about kind of an emotional flood. I'm not sure. I'm really curious, and I want you to comment below as to whether this happens for you. Do you ever find yourself putting your hand on your forehead? That might be a me thing. I'm curious. Do you do it too? Do you find yourself focusing on specific things that may actually be amplifying negative feelings? Sometimes I'll find myself doing that. It's like, why? Why in the world would I encourage depressive or negative thoughts? And I took a closer look at this, and I'm really, a lot of my methodology is about looking at human need psychology, figuring out what needs I'm serving. And I think that there is a deep need to connect with myself when things feel overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed by things. If there's some negative things in my life, my brain wants to solve them. And so it focuses on them. And in doing that, it's not balancing the reality of the good things, with the bad things. It's focusing on how do I fix the bad things. And in order to focus on them, there's some things I do with my physiology. And in my training program, the Tony Robbins and Madonna's training, we looked at this thing called the Triad, and I want to share this with you as a tip, because if you can identify these patterns that I spoke of, like the minute my hand presses my forehead, the minute I turn inward, the minute my breathing slows and I start to think of these thoughts, I can catch it early and not downward spiral into, a big depressive episode. Instead, I can say, "Oh wow, I'm doing it again. What do I need?" And then connect with a need to solve a problem, and a deeper need to, you know, I think the best way to explain it is, to connect with myself and to look at what is going on with the other needs. Because by the time I'm feeling depressed or overwhelmed, usually, there's something going on with my needs in different areas, different root areas of my life. So it could be brought on by one thing, like, okay, I just got over COVID last week and my body's run down. And so my health and fitness is compromised. Or I could be I had a fight in my relationship. And so now, my relationship root is compromised, and my brain starts working on how to fix it. Or it could be overwhelmed with work. I'm just way busy and not, balanced, in my work, with my work schedule. My live work balance is off. You start to look at all the root systems and figure out what needs are being served and what need is being served through this depressive episode. Well, it's to connect with myself. It's to tell myself the minute my hand touches my forehead that I have something to look at. I have something to examine. And instead of just encouraging the negative feelings and getting overwhelmed emotionally, there are some tools available to immediately put into place to prevent yourself from getting too dark. And that, I think we can explore those together. Some of them are universal and some of them are different for different people. But for me, it helps me to journal because I need to be honest with myself and get it on paper. What is wrong with, the situation I'm experiencing? What am I experiencing? There's a bunch of questions I can ask myself in the journaling process to get it up and out. And then once I break it down and I can start to ask myself, well, what am I grateful for? So that I can start to balance in some of the positive things because I don't want to feel like everything is negative, that my entire world, is horrible. Because usually I'm focused on something that's wrong and it makes it feel like everything's wrong when that's not really true. Sometimes there's a lot of things going right and they're just not in my focus area, right? So getting back to the triad, there's a few things that we can do to support ourselves. One is change our physiology. Instead of going in and just, putting myself in a uh, slower, lower mood and state of mind, I can open up. I can do like, look up at the sky. Especially even if I'm crying, I can look up at the sky. I can take a walk. Move my body. I could put on a yoga video. I can do a meditation, a guided meditation to get out of my own head. Sometimes we need to have these go-to things just to change our physiology first. Then once we are in a little bit better, more resourced physical state, we can look at what we're focusing on. And that's where the journaling, comes in, or talking to a friend or talking to a therapist or a coach. It's like, what do I have as a resource to now examine what I'm focusing on? What is really going on, making sure I'm looking at it in a balanced way, being resourceful in my approach to how to fix it, looking at the negative, unhealthy things that I want to do in response and replacing them with positive things and so forth. And that's one of the tools that I use, obviously, is figuring out like rising myself up out of myself and looking down on myself and going, okay, what is really the problem here? And what does the bigger picture look like? Because I'm so myopically focused on the things that are wrong in my life, and so physiology focus is part of that triad. And then the third part is the meaning that we attach to it. So if we're focusing on something, is there a learning there? Is there some meaning that we can attach to it that's not so negative? Sometimes when we know that we're going through something to grow, that can help us, even if, no pain, no gain kind of mindset, knowing that you're going through something for a reason, that you're growing, and to try to ask yourself and the universe, whatever you believe in, to, what is the lesson here? What do I need to learn in order to move out of this and to move into a more positive space? How can I use this experience to help other people or have more empathy when other people are having similar, problems? So I think that when you combine your physiology and putting yourself in a more resourced, positive physical space, combined with looking at what you're focusing on and expanding your view to a bigger, wider, higher perspective, and then attaching meanings that are more empowering about your personal growth and development. Those three things can really help you get out of that depressive pattern, break, the way that you've been addressing overwhelm and negative circumstances in the past, and move into a more positive space. And this is what I have had to repeat over and over again to leverage, myself out of negative feelings and depressive thoughts. And it doesn't always happen overnight. Sometimes I have found that I've had to start from scratch and remind myself of working the triad as a system, for helping myself. Other times it can come more naturally if maybe I'm not as overwhelmed. But we experience a lot in this world that can bring things on. There's loss, there's depression, there's economic challenges, and we're dealing with a lot. And so having tools is something that I invite you to add, as many of to your life that fit as possible so that you feel resourced and that you can help yourself in the dark times and the times that we may feel like we're not resourced. We actually do have it from within. We just sometimes need to add tools like the triad to help ourselves. So I invite you just to next time you're feeling, I mean, even now, regardless, you could be feeling great. Practice these, putting yourself in a good peak physical state, like going, exercising, adding yoga, meditation, anything like that that helps you feel good, massage therapy, hot tubbing, whatever you need to feel good in your body. Because starting there can be a real game changer. And then, doing the work on making sure that you're focusing in a way that's healthy and high level. And then also, lastly, to make sure you're careful about the meanings that you're attaching to the things that are happening in your life. Make sure that you look at all the ways that you could, perceive something. And if you're not sure, ask for other people's perspectives and be aware that there could be different ways of looking at it that might be more empowering for your life, and people that love you and care about you will help you with coming up with some other ways of looking at things that could be, what you need to hear to feel better. So I encourage you not to isolate. I encourage you to look for these kind of tools like the triad, and I encourage you to comment below if you have any shared experiences, or if this resonates, or if it doesn't, or if you have any questions. I just would love to hear from you. And that way I can be of higher service. Sharing my experiences with depression and sharing the tools that I use is something that I'm committed to, and I'm open to ideas that you have as well. So I hope to hear from you and that this was valuable. Have a great day.